And the other thing was, where did I put it? And this one's more editing related, so it may not be something you all are just, but we've heard of filter words. Has anybody here not heard of filter words? They are words in general that create narrative distance. So they're, I meant to say I felt terrible, you know, rather than just saying I felt terrible, you know, or and in fact, felt is one of the filler words.
Bad word.
It's not a bad word, but
No, I mean it's just overused.
It's overused. It can, but in the self-editing workshop, I talked a little bit about pacing. Pacing and narrative distance go hand in hand. If you need the characters to slow down, you need the reader to slow down, to take a deep breath, follow something going on, you create a little bit of narrative distance and they take a deep breath. If you are ready to move faster and forward, the more direct sentences, the less filler words, these types of things, and it moves along in a much more rapid pace. So it's not so much that the filler words are awful. Use them as a search function. Look for them. Consider the situation where they're being used. Is this useful to me here? Or is this creating unnecessary distance? And this is this article. I'm actually going to go ahead and upload the file.
You did do an example of this because it's like you gave a paragraph and then rewrote it. And so it's like saying she heard footsteps on the front porch instead of saying
there were footsteps
stomped on the boots stomped on the porch boards or whatever, instead of like saying that that if you say heard or she saw or those kinds of things, you may be, sometimes you have to use those words. Yes. But I literally did find in my entire manuscript for saw, felt, just a whole list. I think I had about 10 words I used. And so just because I cleaned, some of them made sense in the context and then sometimes they didn't.
Okay. So I actually created it as a PDF file for myself because I found it really useful. And so I just use it as a reference, but it came from a website. I have this print to PDF tool. So I printed the article as a PDF, but it's, see if I can find the original.
I downloaded it. Thank you.
Yeah. So she goes through the exact same things we were talking about, that she knew he was doing this, or she saw him walk out the door. He just walked out the door. If you're already in her point of view, you don't need to say that she saw it happen. We're already assuming it's her eyes showing us what's going on. But again, she goes through this idea that not everything is wrong.
Right.
But looking through it, considering the choice, is it really what I want to do here? And that, again, we brought that up last time. The self-editing is never going to make your manuscript perfect, but it's going to make you much more able to have a coherent conversation with an editor about why you made certain choices. Because an editor, a truly responsible editor, does not make changes without giving you some sense of why those changes are necessary. And if you have a conversation, well, no, I set this up this way for this reason, then you have a conversation going on. If you don't have that conversation going on, you need to reevaluate your editor relationship, because it's not their work, it's yours. But in order to, it's just like being a student in school. you the teacher says, what's the answer? Well, that's great, that's the answer, but how did you get it? Well, I guessed.
Eeny,
Well,
meeny,
I
miny,
liked
mo.
it. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I picked it because but if you can start saying, well, I was able to eliminate these two answers or these two choices, or I tried it originally this way. I didn't like how it felt. Now I wrote it this way. I like how that came out much better. Then you're creating a dialogue and you're telling the editor that you thought about your choices.
Yes.
And I think that that's valuable, not just for the editor uh, author relationship, but eventually with your marketing.
Yes.
If you know why something is the way it is, you know whether or not it needs to have attention drawn to it. Oh, I did this because this is a trope that is very, very popular in this readership. So you know that that's got to go in the marketing material because you want to find that reader, and that
Right.
reader is looking for that trope. You got to make sure that the language showing that trope is in your marketing material. So these just taking that time to know your manuscript just that much better, I think, is bottom line. It's invaluable. It really is. And I think in the end, it's really what pays dividends.